Thank you for stopping by. Today we're going to be tying a fly called the polar shrimp. This is a very popular pattern for catching kokanee salmon here in Colorado. Um, I don't know if it works on salmon elsewhere in the world. I've only ever fished for our landlocked salmon and caught them on this. But it's kind of a cool fly. Let's see, it's a pretty simple fly to tie, and we're going to be going through that today. So the things you'll need are some 36 890 Mustad hooks. This is what they look like, and they have this the eye of the hook is formed where they wrap the shaft back around. So I'll be referencing that later as we tie this. You're also going to want some UTC 210 black thread. Some white calf tail is what I use, or you can also use some craft fur in white. I've used both, and they both seem to work just fine. Next thing you'll need is fluorescent orange ultra chenille. So this stuff's pretty good. And then you'll want to get some Saddle Hackle in hot orange. We'll be using this. And then also more Saddle Hackle in red. So that's the supplies we need. The only other thing you'll need that's not really feathers and natural materials is some nail polish that's a clear, or you can use UV resin. It's whatever you prefer or whatever you got. I have both. Probably for this one I'll just use the nail polish, but yeah, use whatever you would like. So let's get our vise set up first. I'm going to crank this down, get my hook put in place, tighten that up, and just give it one more crank to make sure. Alright, so what I do is I start right behind where that shaft loops or doubles back to make a loop, and I just start wrapping over my thread all the way back to about where the point of the hook is, maybe just past just a little bit. We'll trim off our excess thread here, and then what we're going to do is take a few sections of this red hackle. We're going to go and just kind of rip off maybe from there. See if I'm ripping it right. Alright. Got a nice little clump there. Might have been too much. There's some of those downy ones in there. I don't want those really. I just want those straight, straighter feathers from the neck hackle. Alright, so then what we're going to do is get this all squared away. Yeah, there goes one of those big downy ones. Alright, we're going to put these on here. We're going to stick them out about yay far. Just about half, maybe a third of the hook shaft length away from or past the bend in the hook. And we're going to tie those in. Put a few wraps in, tie them down nice and tight. And then if you want to, you can trim these off. I've left them before. I think it creates a small little bulge there. Not really wanting that, so tie that down. And then I'm going to advance my thread back up to right where the bend of that, where the hook doubles back. Right, stop right there. So this is where you're going to get your ultra chenille. You can either, I like to cut off a section, it's much easier to work with, but I'm going to tie this in right there, and we're going to wrap this around the hook. But first I'm going to wrap this all the way back so that we have, now these can be loose wraps, but we want to build up the body a little bit. So you can see it's kind of curling, but the nice thing is when you wrap it loose, you can just stand it right back up. And right about where you get to where the red tail feathers were tied in there, you just start make a few wraps nice and tight. And then we're going to advance this all the way back up to the front of the hook shaft there. And so now we'll start our wrapping, and we're going to, doesn't matter which way you do it, whatever is comfortable to you. We're going to wrap these around all the way back up to that double shaft up there. Wrap that all the way around. And once we get up to about that point, we're just going to tie it off. And then we'll trim off our excess. And so far that's looking pretty good. All right, so we are about halfway there. The next step is to take one of those orange neck hackle feathers, and I trim it up about so. And the reason we're doing this is we're going to wrap this around so that it creates kind of that flare of orange around the front of it. And then at the end we'll put in that calf tail and it'll go over the back. So I've struggled to do this. I'm just going to be honest with you. It always slips out or something, but hopefully this goes well. I'm just going to tie in the back section here, or really it's the tip of the feather. I'm gonna tie that in here, and I'm gonna get that nice and tight so it doesn't slip, because we really don't want it to slip. But I am gonna try to cut that excess with my scissors here. With my luck, it always slips out, but we're gonna cut that excess out. There might be a little bit more I missed. So we got that tied off pretty good. Now we're going to bring this around, and you do this however you think you can. There are some tricks you can do to get this to cooperate. So you kind of want it to be moving the spiral forward towards the eye of the hook as you go. But it might help to wet the feathers and push them back as you do this. It might just make it a little bit more manageable, because it feels like they always want to go forward, and I really don't want them to. I want them to be wrapped backwards. In the end, whatever's going forward, we can trim off. It's not going to be a big deal. Just be advised that these things have this tendency to push forward. Again, anything that goes forward, I'm going to trim off. So I've got, now I'm down to this main last piece of feather shaft, and I'm just going to shorten up my thread here, and I'm going to wrap that up and tie it off. Alright, so now I got a few stragglers. That's not a big deal. Overall, that's not too bad. I've tied them a lot worse. And then these stragglers that are going forward, we're just going to knock those out. Just easier to deal with. Alright, so now we're looking pretty good actually. I might tie up this little black section just a little bit more to get it to lay the way I want it to. Because that black thread at the end, we're going to leave a nice little, almost like a head there. And that's the part we're going to dab with nail polish. So anyhow, so far so good. We are now going to work on this calf tail. So I got this stuff here, and what I like to do is I just trim a few strands off at the hard leather part of the calf tail, and that should be sufficient. So you don't really need a whole lot, because we're going to double it up. Alright, so I've cut off my calf tail. I've got about that much. And again, we're going to double back this part onto towards the tail of the fly. And so that'll make it a little bit thicker. So we'll go ahead and get that. Got a few stragglers here. We'll get this put down on the back. So I try to end it right about where the body ends. And we'll put that down there. And then give it a few wraps. And you just want to wrap it 2 or 3 times, because then you're going to want to fling that back. And this is where we're going to start wrapping the rest of the body. And so now we're going to build up that thread. And then we get a nice, now I got some, you can see how far that's protruding. We can trim that off. Not a big deal. That's about what we want it to look like. And wrap that black up. And then we're going to do our whip finishes. And we'll do 2 or 3 of them, just to make sure this stays put. So 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Let's do one more. Maybe it's completely unnecessary, but I'm paranoid of things coming undone. All right. Tighten that up. Trim off our thread. Now the last step, I mean, if you're comfortable with your knots, you really don't need this last step, I guess. But I like to put a little bit of clear nail polish on the head there, just to give it that extra certainty. Especially the salmon are so big; they're pretty rough on these flies. So, probably works out better to put some resin or nail polish on here, just to keep the knot tight and make the fly a little bit more durable. I'm gonna flip it over and just do a little bit more on the bottom. So give me 1 second. All right, we'll flip that. It's already did a pretty good job, but we'll add a little bit more, just getting that around there. And yeah, that is going to dry up nicely. And that is our polar shrimp. I can't guarantee that it'll catch you a salmon, but the way I fish it, I put put some weight on about 16 to 18 inches above the fly. Find where the salmon are. You got to find a nice deep pool. Get some lead to get this down to the bottom, and then I usually use an indicator to control the depth of it. But you want that fly almost bouncing on the bottom, going right past the salmon. And if they nip at it, hopefully your indicator reflects that, and you can just try to set the hook. But we've caught tons of salmon, especially back years ago when the fishing was really, really good. We used to catch tons of them on this fly, and they are pretty rough on them. So that's why I learned to tie it, was because it's way cheaper to tie them myself than to shell out, $1 to $2 for a fly like this every time. So anyhow, I hope you like the pattern. I hope it comes in useful for you. And yeah, if you have any questions, just drop me a comment below. Thank you so much. Take care.